What is the most terrifying thing you've ever experienced while home alone? A couple years back I woke up at 3 a.m. to see someone walk past my bedroom door. I called out in my just woken up. Not thinking thinking maybe my boyfriend had come over while I was sleeping but got no response, so knew it wasn't him. Got out of bed, stupidly forgetting to take my phone or any kind of defensive item with me, and went into the front room where the light was on to be met with a random guy staring at one of the walls. I asked him who he was and got no answer. At this point I'd actually woken up enough to realize I could really be in trouble, so ran back to the bedroom. Grabbed my phone and ran outside on the phone to the police, who showed up within a few minutes. Turns out the guy was mentally ill, and to this day neither myself or the police know how he got in. I moved into our house a month before my husband did, and I was painting our guest room with the windows wide open. I was busy painting, listening to music, when I realized it had gotten dark outside. I heard the leaves crunching outside but didn't think anything of it because we have a lot of neighbors who walk their dogs. When I went to close the windows I saw a man standing in my backyard under the tree maybe 5 feet from our back door staring up at me. I fell to the floor and realized the back glass door was probably open and nothing but the screen, which he could have easily just walked into my house. Crawled to my phone and called my husband, who then called 911 while rushing home to me. We have a 6 feet tall fence around our yard. This person hopped it to watch me. I couldn't sleep right at night for months. One day while I was working afternoons a couple years back, I woke up at around 10 a.m. and started to watch American Dad before getting up. Next thing you know, I hear my back door open. A normal thing in our home since we only use the back door. But no one was supposed to be home yet. I assumed it was my mom and didn't think anything of it. Then I heard footsteps coming up the stairs as my bedroom was on the second floor. I call out to my mom and get no response. Then my door cracks open and a head pops in. It's a 30-ish-year-old man with a blonde beard and a big mane of greasy hair who looks shocked to see me. At the time I was about 260 pounds 6'3" and 20 years old. I was also sitting in only my boxers. Before I was able to realize what was happening, he asked, "Is this the _ residence?" To which I reply no. He makes a swift exit, and before I can recollect my thoughts, he's not even in my driveway. Talked to a family friend who is a veteran police officer. Turns out a man has been pulling this kind of stunt to rob people in nearby towns. You must be like 400 pounds 8'5" by now. I was babysitting a kid who had a video monitor and was told that she wouldn't wake up while the parents were out, and if she did, to call them right away. I was watching TV with the monitor set off to the side to keep an eye on her, and right around 11, the camera's view shifted a few inches. It then began to slightly jiggle like someone was messing with it. I was squinting at it trying to decide what I was actually seeing. And I kid you not, the whole screen burst to static for a few seconds, and the kid started wailing. She stood up and was screaming in her crib just like one of the kids from The Sims. When she didn't fall back asleep after a few minutes, I called mom and she said, "Okay, we're on our way home anyway. We think she has nightmares sometimes, it's fine." Never again. When I was like 9, my parents were both at work one day and I was chilling at home by myself when the intercom rang. We lived in an apartment block. It was some lady asking if I've ordered a pizza. I calmly told her that I didn't. Then she said, "Oh, well, do you want a free pizza? Just let me in and I'll give it to you." 9-year-old me was fucking terrified by this. Not because I found the idea of free pizza particularly scary, but because my dad used to tell me really drastic cautionary tales for why I shouldn't open the door to strangers, and other stuff. So I was genuinely convinced that the woman wanted to come in so she could murder me. You were probably right to be scared. It seemed like she was basically saying, "Hey kid, you want free stuff? Just let me into your home. You can totally trust me." I would not have opened the door for her either. Someone attempting to break in. I have a 75 pounds boxer and have never seen anyone run as fast as that man did. There was a man in Alaska with a pet grizzly bear that had learned how to open the door. It was a custom doorknob so the bear could go outside. Said his favorite thing was the bear answering the door on salesman. I was about 21 or 22 and living by myself at the time. And I left my window open on a pleasant night. It was low enough to the ground that you could get in if you really tried. But the screen wasn't easy to take off, and I lived in a fairly safe neighborhood, so I didn't even think twice about it. Woke up in the middle of the night because I smelled smoke. And I reached out to turn on my lamp and my hand hit what was very obviously a person. My brain fully woke up at that point, and I realized there was a shirtless man in my bedroom, smoking a cigarette and staring at me. I remember yelling for him to get out, and I must have spooked him just as badly as he spooked me because he leapt out my window and took off. I slammed it shut and moved a bookcase in front of it. And when I went out the next morning in the daylight, found the screen sitting against the house. Didn't sleep the rest of the night, and I haven't slept with a window more than cracked ever since. I also absolutely refuse to live on the ground floor of a building. I don't know if he was planning to rob me or rape me or both, but it was absolutely terrifying and makes me wonder how many times it happened and I didn't wake up. I was home from university for the summer and didn't have a job, so was home alone whilst everyone was at work. I live in a small village on a quiet street, so it was completely normal to have all the windows and doors open during the day. Late on in the afternoon I get a call from my dad. I'm around the corner but struggling to get into the street. I'll explain when I'm home but lock all the doors, close the windows and go upstairs. This was obviously strange. We don't live in a bad area and my dad's sense of humor isn't that mean, but the tone in his voice made me do it without hesitation. Everything closed and locked and upstairs I go. A few minutes later I get a second call from my dad. Some police are going to be going through the side gate into the back garden to check the shed. I'll be home soon. Again. I was terrified but knew to just ask later. Stayed upstairs but did see armed police checking the back garden. When my dad finally got home I obviously asked what had happened. Turns out some 16-year-old kid on our street had taken some legal highs, stabbed a neighbor then did a runner. Absolutely terrifying, but a sad part is they found him at night time because he is scared of the dark and came out of hiding. When I was 19 in my first apartment I had someone knock at the door. I looked through the peephole and saw this burly, heavy-set man who abruptly started screaming to let him in. He was screaming things like he was going to beat my ass and kick the door down if I didn't open. I called the cops and as soon as someone got on the phone he started body slamming my door to break in. I was freaking out and crying as they quickly had 5 cops show up within 5+ minutes. As soon as he heard the sirens he quickly walked away and they met him at the bottom of the stairs. Apparently he was after the previous renter but was extremely intoxicated. They arrested him and thankfully he never came back. I ended up breaking my lease and moving out 3 months later. It was in a very nice neighborhood but it quickly made me wish I was back home with family instead of being on the other side of the United States. My mom had something similar happen to her a year or so ago. She lives in a high-rise and all the floors look identical in the hall. A drunk man tried to get into her apartment and started yelling and screaming at her to let him in. She called the building security, and they came to deal with him. He lived a couple of floors above her. I was drinking one night, then went out to smoke. When I came back and I went to the 3rd floor instead of 4th, and walked right in. As I had left door unlocked since building is locked, the unit was empty and unlocked. And for a moment I was stunned. Someone stolen all my furniture from the 4th floor of a building with no elevator in 10 minutes. Then I looked at the number on the door and realized my error. This happened to me a couple of years ago. I have also lived on my own a long time, so do not get sacred easily. I had just finished reading in bed and I turned my lamp off and settled down to go to sleep and hugged my cat up close to me. This would be about 1:30 in the morning. I closed my eyes and I had a voice say meow like imitating a cat. My window was open so I thought it was just someone being weird outside. I opened my eyes and in the middle of my bedroom was a small boy wearing a red jumper waving his arm above his head. I leapt up like a goddamn ninja and put the light on, and my heart was going mad. Now, nothing paranormal has happened in this house, ever in the entire time I have lived here. I spent the whole night totally freaked out, only getting a bit of sleep when it started to get light outside. My friends thought this was hilarious when I told them. I was saying there is no way I am living in a haunted house and started googling cleansing, exorcists and whatnot. The next few nights other weird stuff started happening. I started sleeping with the TV on and as soon as I tried to get any sleep, I would hear freaky voices coming from it, or I would notice shadows dip by the side of my bed. It was dreadful. I actually resorted to saying out loud I'm really tired, so if you could not haunt me for one night I would be really grateful. I had never really believed in any of this sort of stuff before, so it was like an entire paradigm shift for me. Anyway, I was going on about this to my friends at work, and one of them asked if I was on drugs. Well, funnily enough I had just started taking this new tablet Montelukast for my asthma. When I got home, read the side effects, a rare one being hallucinations. Stop taking them. No more hauntings. TL, Dr. Drugs made me see ghosts and #X200B, update, thanks everyone for all your replies. I woke up to so many notifications on my phone. I did some research myself after I realized what was happening and I found out that it was prescribed mainly to children and to those who struggle with taking an inhaler. Here in the UK at least, my asthma was going through a bad patch so they tried a few different meds on me. I remember thinking, if you were a little kid and started seeing stuff like that every night and had no idea that it was the tablets causing it, the thought doesn't bear thinking about. Also, nothing has ever happened in my house since then. Everything is completely normal and I now can sleep with the lights off like a proper adult. I have been pretty fortunate based on these comments, but I was home alone one night while my wife and son were visiting my mill. I walked back to our bedroom to see someone rummaging through my son's room on the video baby monitor. Immediately grabbed my firearm and yelled to the other side of the house, I am armed. Come out slowly. Over and over while slowly making my way back to his room. Got there, flipped on the light and nothing. Searched the whole house, pumped full of adrenaline. Finally satisfied I was alone, I went back to my room and the guy was back in the room. I took a closer look and I am ashamed to say I was looking at myself. The camera is a live feed on our Wi-Fi and it was steaming on a huge delay. I have never known it to do that and it has not done it since. TL, doctor went looking for myself and came back empty-handed. My BF worked away from home a lot and I always struggled to sleep on the first night he was away. On this occasion I was woken by the sound of a man shouting and someone banging on wood or a front door. I jumped up and looked out my bedroom window. Just in time to see a man dressed all in black walking through our garden towards the house. I ran to the front of the house to look out of the front window and make sure he kept going. He did, but he met up with another man dressed in black walking towards my house. I was terrified and called the police. They arrived in a matter of minutes and checked out the back garden, but they were gone. Turned out a neighbor had caught them both trying to steal his car, and one had escaped through the gardens while the other had run through the roads, and they had met up outside my house. I didn't sleep at all that night and my brother came to stay the next night. I'm so glad I live in an apartment now. Much more security. The cleaning lady tried to commit suicide in our bathroom. She died 4 days later. When I was like 14, I was home alone one night around 10 p.m. stood in my kitchen making some cereal. It's dark outside and then all of a sudden the loudest sound. Some drunk woman literally launched a hammer through my kitchen window. Was so loud and glass was everywhere. I followed her down the street whilst calling the police. Pretty strange. Edit for everyone asking why I followed. So the reason I actually followed her was because you could see really clearly through the smashed window as it was now wide open. She looked like a very fragile little old crackhead lady that could barely walk or see straight, and she started stumbling away mumbling some shit once she had done it. Plus I didn't really know how the fuck I was gonna explain this shit to my parents if I didn't have a solid answer, haha. But yes, it was a very distressed walk whilst following her. Definitely an action caused by adrenaline too. I work from home, so I'm home alone a lot. One day I was working, and out of the corner of my eye I noticed some movement in my backyard. There was a man jumping over my fence into my backyard. Panicked. I call my then boyfriend, now fiance, and tell him what is happening. While I'm on the phone with him, I get a knock at my front door. It's a woman from CenturyLink informing me that technicians will need access to my backyard. I tell her someone just jumped over my fence, so I think they're already there. Way to give me a heart attack. CenturyLink. One evening an explosion at a petrochemical plant, located a mile from my house, blew out the double window in my living room while I was in the room. I definitely thought we were being bombed until I remembered where I live. I had just let my dog out to the backyard and he was completely traumatized. For the following 2 months I had to carry him outside and sit in the grass with pieces of chicken just so he would potty. Edit to add, my house is currently for sale for unrelated reasons. I lit 2 long taper candles for some ambience while I was playing guitar late at night. I was facing the other direction looking out the window while playing and shortly later turned around and went back towards the candles and discovered one of them was completely gone. The stand was still there, but no melted wax, just a bare candle holder, and the other one was still lit and no shorter than it was when I lit them. It was almost 3 a.m. and I was so terrified that I got in my car and left and drove to my dad's house. Somebody tried to break into the house while I was by myself. The whole place was quiet and dark at nighttime. I walked past the front door to go upstairs for bed, and the handle suddenly started jerking around like the Hulk was trying to get in. Then whoever it was started to either kick or shoulder the door, and it was making the whole frame jiggle. I completely froze and my mind went blank, just standing there like an idiot and staring. My dog bolted down the stairs like it was her time to shine, scrambled on the tile, and let loose the most vicious barks I've ever heard. Whoever it was left, she was a very good girl. I miss her. You know those tongs in the kitchen that have a spring but a latch to keep them together? I had a pair of those and I put the latch on and put them down on the counter. I went away for a bit and came back and then they jumped off the counter at me. Biggest jump scare of my life. The latch had come undone and it sprung open. But in the millisecond when inanimate objects suddenly come to life and jump at you, you don't realize this and totally freak out. I was living alone after my ex-husband moved out, and the creepy guy across the street who was 20 years older and enjoyed drugs kept trying to date me. He would harass me when I left my house or arrived home and would threaten to rape me. I had just started dating my current BF and he helped hang up motion detecting lights outside. I started carrying pepper spray and leaving the alarm on whenever I was home. My BF and I also agreed that if I didn't text him for a certain period of time and he couldn't get a hold of me, that he'd go to my house and check on things. I also ceased him on my work calendar just in case. It got so scary that my BF actually moved in a lot sooner than we planned because I felt so unsafe. After creepy guy watched my BF move in and saw him puttering around with project cars in the driveway, he stopped harassing me and moved away a few months later. I've never felt so unsafe in my own home. Wondering if the outside lights were on because of the neighbor's cat or because creepy guy was trying to break in. One afternoon someone knocked at my back door. I thought it was the guy coming to read our meter. So I opened the door. Next thing I know, 2 huge guys pushed into the house, and one of them threw me up against the wall. Then they shoved me down on the couch. They told me they were Hell's Angels, and they were pissed because my BF was selling too much drugs, cutting into their profits. They kept calling me by my next door neighbor's name. We had suspected they were selling drugs. All of the people stopping by for less than 5 minutes made it pretty obvious. I just kept telling them I wasn't her. One of them searched the house, while the other kept me pinned to the couch. They started to realize they were in the wrong house, because they couldn't find anything where they were told it was. My neighbor's house is a single floor, with a basement. My house is a 4-level, backsplit. Then I showed them my mail, because it showed my name, and they knew they fucked up. They started telling me that they were after my neighbor's BF, because he raped their cousin, which I knew was BS, but I didn't care. I just wanted them to leave. They robbed me of my cash, and left. I now have locks on my screen doors.